Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA. I have Luke here with me, and Luke, the first round of the Allianz Football League has just happened. We are here the day after, and we're talking about the Dublin versus Armagh game. I mean, the result of the weekend, Armagh coming up to Croke Park and winning their first game in Croke Park since they won a qualifier in 2017, their first victory over Dublin at Croke Park since 2003. I mean, it's been called a bit of a shock. Personally, I don't think it is a shock. I mean, Dublin are there for the taking now. I don't think that there's a team in the country in Division 1 or Division 2 that wouldn't fancy a crack at the Dubs now. I mean, they look quite vulnerable. They lost this game by 2 goals and 15 points to a goal and 13. Personally, I think it was a combination of Armagh looking really good and Dublin looking quite vulnerable.
Yeah, I suppose starting off, I think immediately people look at it from the Dublin perspective, I think, and it's kind of nearly this fall from grace in the last year or so, and how they've kind of fallen so far behind. I know that they've plenty of injuries at the moment, and there's key lads like Paddy Small, McCarthy wasn't available as well, Simons isn't around yet and everything, but still it's definitely a strong enough team for them to get a result out of that. And look, I think the problem was just how pedestrian they were and how disinterested they looked too in times too. So first of all, the point I kind of want to make just is I think from a Dublin fan perspective, you can't but be concerned with the way Dublin are going. The style of play looks kind of non-existent. It just seems really slow build up and everything. And then even defensively, there was so much space that, like a lot of people are saying about how Rian O'Neill kind of gave Davy Byrne a bit of a torch in the full forward line. But the fact is that there was 30 yards of open space in front of him as well. And in the era when players kind of dropped so deep and swell, and that there's so much cover for your back line, for this to be happening in the first game of the season, it's kind of baffling. So structurally, I think Dublin, the big problems, their backups just aren't at the level that they were in recent years. But then at the same time, I think Armagh have to be commended. They started slowly and they kind of a bit cautiously at the start, probably paid a bit too much respect to Dublin, but then they kind of realised that Dublin were vulnerable there for the taking, and they started going more direct with it. And look, when we could then see what happened, and the scoreline absolutely reflected their dominance in the game.
Yeah, well, obviously the key moments were the goals for Armagh. I mean, the first goal, what a pass from Aidan Nugent. I mean, David Byrne kind of got caught in no man's land. And what a finish by Rian O'Neill, sending Evan Comerford the wrong way when he had a lot of time to think about it. The guy is just coolness personified. I mean, he didn't flinch at all, took his chance, buried it in the back of the net. And that was a real kind of wake-up call, as in Armagh are coming to win this game. They see an opportunity here to beat a wounded animal. And Dublin, and I know what you mentioned about the injuries, but me personally, Paddy Small, yeah, he's a good player, but I don't see him as being a make or break player for Dublin. And with McCarthy, O'Callaghan and Fitzsimons are the only three that I think could come back into that team that would really, really make a difference. And that's what's worrying about this Dublin side, is that it was only really them three that were a big miss for me. And, you know, they don't look as strong as they did before. I think McCarthy's the big one. I think he would bring so much strength back to that half-back line. I think Shane Carty or Peadar O'Cofaigh Byrne need to be put in midfield alongside Brian Fenton, but then Brian Howard put back into the half forward line. I think he offered so much for kickouts, etc., from the half forward line. I know he's good at centre back, but I prefer him at the wing forward position. But Armagh looked really, really good. Like the way that they sat deep kind of invited Dublin onto them, but then they attacked with pace. I mean, Jarlath O'Byrnes and Conor Mackin from the wing-back positions were so impressive, driving forward all game. The midfield pairing of Ben Creeley and Callum Mackin, that was, again, another very, very impressive point for Armagh. And even when Ben Creeley had to go off injured, Niall Grimley came in and looked very, very, very good, kicked a point as well. As well as at the substitutes, Armagh, Stefan Campbell kicked a lovely point. Greg McCabe came on, kicked a lovely point. The substitutes for Armagh did much more, in my opinion, look better than the substitutes from Dublin, apart from obviously Lorcan O'Dell got that goal. Yeah, the first goal, what a pass from Aidan Nugent, what a finish by Rian O'Neill. And then the second goal, I'd be interested to get your opinion on it. Obviously, Jason Duffy, nice bit of footwork. Me personally, my first instinct when I was watching the game was I thought he did go for it. I thought he changed his body the way he was going to kick the ball when Evan Comerford kind of took a few steps out. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he went for it?
Yeah, look, it's always possible to know these. I always just say that they're aiming for the crossbar kind of, but yeah, no, I think look, based off Comerford was a bit off his line and stuff, so and there wasn't much trajectory in the ball as well. So I think we'll give the benefit of the day to Jason Duffy, but just based off that, I thought that Armagh setup kind of was really, really good. Like, yeah, obviously they've some really hard-working players like Jamar Hall and Tiernan Kelly working their way back from the wing forward spots. And look, I think the move of having the two lads outside, Jason Duffy and Rian O'Neill, was absolutely devastating to the Dubs. And look, they just couldn't get a handle on them two at all inside. And yeah, look, that's a huge plus for Armagh, is that look, they've got scores in them, and yeah, I know the Dubs kind of tactically were pretty awful with nobody kind of really sweeping in front and no protection for their full back line. But yeah, look, those two did absolute untold damage throughout the entire game, really. And yeah, I think if they probably won't be allowed that much space in the games coming forward, they'll be probably playing a lot of games in provincial grounds where there'll be kind of tougher surfaces and everything as well. But really promising signs for Armagh based off that. Just it'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to play that long diagonal kick passing game when they come up against the likes of the Monaghans, the Tyrones, who are going to sit deeper. And yeah, we'll see how they get on in that, because they're going to have to modify their style against the likes of them.
Yeah, and it'll be very interesting to see the role that which Rory Grugan kind of takes up against them. I really liked how he played. He sat in the pocket and was the real playmaker, and his passes into Rian O'Neill all day were a thing of beauty. Dublin, of course, put a little bit of a push back into the side. Obviously, Lorcan O'Dell got the goal. You know, I mean, that's a good sign. That's a good young player coming through for Dublin, along with Lee Gannon, who started at cornerback. I thought he did okay. But in my opinion, I never thought Dublin were going to fully come back. I never thought that they were going to get themselves back into the game. I thought Armagh were home and host pretty early on. I'd be interested to see what you think.
Yeah, well, I think throughout the kind of first half, there was still this hour that whenever Dublin take the field, that they're Dublin, they're the 6 in a row winners and everything like that. But as soon as the goals kind of started to go in, you're kind of realizing this isn't the same team that we saw that won 6 in a row. It's mostly the same players, but those goals went in and they looked beaten already, and they looked deflated, and the scoreline just kind of stayed the same way for the rest of the game. Armagh just kind of kept scores ticking over, and then Dublin just maybe they'd answer back with one or two and stuff as well, but they weren't making any inroads whatsoever. So yeah, I think the second half was pretty predictable how it went, and look, Dublin never looked like they were going to work their way back into it, and yeah, I think that's the real kind of negative. And look, it leaves them with a tough trip down to Kerry next week. They'll probably be without Costello. They might be without Merchant too. So they're pretty banged up now as well after this game, losing about 3 or 4 extra lads as well. Aaron Byrne went too. So yeah, it's a pretty worst possible start to the league for Dublin. And yeah, it's only going to get more difficult next week.
Yeah, and that will be an absolute barn burner to watch, because Kerry, of course, will be waiting for them to come down. Armagh, of course, play Tyrone next week, so 2 fascinating games there to look forward to. Guys, that is the Play On GAA review of Armagh's famous victory, really, and in my opinion, the highlight of Kieran McGeeney's tenure as Armagh manager. They won this game by 2 goals and 15 points to Dublin's 1 goal and 13 points. Don't forget to look at all our other action reviews of the weekend's action. Until the next video, guys, take care.